My true goal is to become more of a blue collar guy. You know, you look at someone who went to college and you say, oh, you wasted your time going to college. I want that feeling back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You spent 250 grand.
Yeah. That's the thing comedians do. They're like, I chose comedy. It's like, no, comedy chose you. We didn't have a lot of options. And whenever I meet someone who has a lot of options and does stand up, I'm always like, what are you doing?
Yeah, why?
If you send me your email with your address, I will write you a letter on my typewriter. That's what I'm doing now. I write people letters on my typewriter.
Welcome, everyone, to the OG pod. Today, I have a comedian from Austin, Paul Cyphers.
Hello.
Cyphers.
Yes.
Like the cryptic cipher.
Yeah, or the bad guy from The Matrix.
It's a tradition of mine to mess up people's names, so
No
welcome to the
problem.
crew.
I mean, you know, if I had a name worth not messing up, then, you know.
It sounds like a stage name. It's a cool name.
Yeah.
Cypher.
Yeah, sometimes I think when I've done, you know, as they say, urban shows, that people think maybe I'm some type of
What's an urban show?
hippity hop comedian, you know, a show predominantly black audience.
Is that what we call them? The urban show?
I mean,
Welcome to
I don't
the urban
know.
show.
That's what they called them in 2017 when I did them. So, or 18. So I don't know what they're called now. But yeah, some people thought I was going to be like a rapping comedian, which is very not what I do. So
you do writing, you do comedy.
yes.
You started in Massachusetts and you've been out here. You came out with like Ben and Jesse and
Yes,
that crew.
you're probably the only podcast to have all three.
Yeah, I collected all the Massachusetts boys.
The Lonely Mans. Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I was an original member of the Lonely Mans.
Hell
And
yeah.
we had contractual differences. I'm a free agent now. You
Oh,
know what I mean? I'm
beautiful.
looking
Did
for
you get paid at least? You get a percentage
I got paid
of the
more
podcast?
from that podcast than any other podcast I've ever done in my life. It was, you know, $15.
Still
a
zero,
month.
but
yeah,
yeah.
I was like, it was like enough to get like a Nokia prepaid phone bill. So
Oh, there
it's
you
like
go.
$15 a month or something like that. That's not bad. More than I made in crypto. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get hit with this crypto downturn?
No, I haven't touched it in like years, but I probably made. I used to play this game called Counter-Strike.
Oh,
and
I love Counter-Strike.
Really?
Oh,
Wow.
yeah. Dude,
Me
I
too.
played 1.6 all
Oh,
the way through
cool. I played CS:GO,
Global Offensive?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, CS:GO. Yeah, I
CSGO.
played like thousands of hours of it.
Yeah, same.
And I sold all my skins during the pandemic and put it into Bitcoin, and then it went up a little bit or a bunch, and then I was like, cool, and then I sold that, and then I was like out of the game forever.
Dude, I think I still have skins.
Yeah,
I
some
think
of
I
them.
still have some cool ones.
Yeah.
Like a Deagle, Desert Eagle. I think I have like one that has like the bullet counter.
Cool. Yeah, you should do it. You should go on there and see what you can sell for. I can send you the website I did it on. It's pretty like on the up and up, I guess.
Do people still play it?
I think so. I think a
CS:GO?
lot of Russian people still play it. You know what I mean? Well, I guess a lot of the kids that would play Counter-Strike are probably
Why
over.
do games always migrate to different countries? Like StarCraft starts in America and now it's in North Korea.
South Korea. I don't think they
South Korea,
StarCraft in
right,
North
yeah.
Korea. Maybe they do. There's a
Kim
conspiracy.
Jong-un,
Yeah.
whatever his name is.
I don't know. I think some of it had to do with that, you know, Counter-Strike 1.6 could be played on older PCs, so like all over Asia, no matter what.
What are your favorite maps on CS:GO?
Yeah, I used to play. What is Mirage?
Oh yeah, Mirage is a good
Cache.
map. That map kind of annoyed me though because it wasn't part of 1.6 and
Yeah.
it took some getting used to.
I was more of a global offensive guy. This is a
Nice.
really you're gonna have maybe one audience member that even
Dude,
knows
there's
it.
so many people that love Counter-Strike. Like this is gonna be
I used to watch the tournaments. I'll still throw a big national tournament on.
On
I went
Twitch?
to the major in Boston in person, and watched America win their first major tournament. This is so nerdy.
This is cool. I mean, my favorite map was Dust, just like OG Dust, original.
Oh, Dust 1.
Freaking Dust. Yeah,
Yeah.
not Dust 2. I never liked Dust 2. I'll play it.
That's pubbing. That's the public map. Like, you know, it's a map that it's fun to play with like 30 people.
I want to be counter-terrorist with that 5.7. Is that the gun?
Yeah.
I'm gonna rush to B.
Yeah,
Is
a
that
tactical shield if the server allows it. I'll throw one of those.
really? I
on.
never got into the tactic. I would do 5.7 and scout,
Cool.
and then I'd wait for people to come into the hallway and snipe
Yeah,
them.
that game's fun, dude.
It's freaking fun.
Yeah.
I had a couple moves with that scout. The other one was Aztec. You remember that?
Yep.
Dude, that was a
Hostage
fun
maps
map.
were fun.
Because you always
I,
get the rain in the background.
My
It's, like, all
gaming PC
peaceful.
broke like 2 months after I moved to Austin, and that was like the best. If anyone wants advice on how to make it in a field, if you don't need a gaming PC, then just hammer it. Just take a sledgehammer to it. It's,
What?
it's the biggest time sink. It's
Oh, that's actually probably a good productivity tool or hack.
yeah. If you're looking for
Sledgehammer to the
quick
PC.
things, yeah, because it's just. I mean, gaming is unfortunately. I would love to reach a point in stand up where I could Twitch a little bit on the side to like 30 or 50 people that liked me. but building that from the ground up is not what I'm interested in. That seems like a hellish existence. And shout outs to anyone that's managed to. People think that's like the easiest job in the world. But it's
They
like
stream for like 12 hours a day.
even if you're like a millionaire, you're
Yeah.
still inside your house for 16 hours a day, which is
Yeah.
like your brain doesn't know that you're just gonna be miserable. Like that sounds
Yeah.
awful. Even
Are
from
you
like,
not a homebody? I could stay at home
I am
quite a bit.
I am a homebody, but like having to do that every day, it just seems so like taxing. I don't know. I used to be one of those guys who like they're just playing video games, and then I tried doing it a little bit because I used to play Super Smash Brothers in
Oh
tournament,
yeah.
and I'm pretty good at it. So I used to play, and I would get like 15 viewers because you do viewer battles. People would sign up and wait for their turn, and even doing that was like I just annoyed dealing with all the people. Most of them are like children, so they're just like pouty
In Smash,
when
yeah,
you
I can
win,
see
and if they
that.
beat you, they just like gloat and they're like mean to you. And it's just yeah. After like 3 weeks of doing it, I was like, I'm not gonna do
Dude,
this.
there's nothing more like violent and aggressive and horrifying than the video game, like
Yeah,
the shit you say to each other in video game.
everyone's
It's like
alone.
wrap your lips around a rifle or whatever, like, you know,
Yeah,
fucking kill yourself,
yeah,
you know,
they're
like,
alone at their house. Yeah,
yeah, like you get so angry. You get so angry. I don't think I've ever been so angry than in my gaming days.
yeah, for
Like
sure.
my buddy and I used to play a lot of StarCraft, and
Cool.
him and his brother and me we'd get on, and you know we'd be on there for like 4 or 5 hours. And like if we lost a match, the rage that would have, like, especially if it was like a tactical error, like somebody spent too long going resources and we got rushed, or like we were out of position on a map and got collapsed, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
The rage.
yeah, and then to anyone outside viewer, you seem completely psychotic for
Oh
being
yeah.
mad at this
Anyone
thing.
watching it?
Yeah, like if someone walks by and sees you
Fuck.
getting mad at your computer, it's like it literally not only does it not matter, it matters less than things that don't matter. It's like
Yeah.
the most meaningless. That's what I mean about. I mean, I still play Civilization on my iPad, but the gaming thing, it's like I have too many other things that drag my time. I like to watch YouTube. I like to fuck around,
Hmm.
and gaming is just not. And it's not conducive to like
A healthy
trying to do
life.
stand up, trying to write, trying to do like I've never written a joke while playing a video game.
Really? I do doctorates and all sorts of shit while I play games.
Yeah, well, I know
That's
it's
how I
weird.
roll.
It's like I have a few video game jokes, but the place my brain is at. Whereas if I go somewhere with my girlfriend, there's a chance that something will slip into my head that's like at least gives me something to say at an open mic, even if it's not that funny. Video games, it's like I've tried it. I've been like, oh, I was playing Civilization and I chose Germany, and everyone's like, I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about.
Dude, it's
So,
the ultimate time sink because you're
yeah,
playing like a map you know and a game you know,
yeah,
and you've done it a million times, and you're revving up your brain to the max. You're
yeah.
like super dialed in, super focused.
And I think it's nostalgia too. Like that's the
Very
thing
much
that got me
so.
away from it. Is like I realized that I'm just like smoking weed and playing a game that I used to play when I was 14
Yep.
to try to transport me back to this time when I didn't have all the other excess like stuff weighing on me or whatever.
Yeah.
And I
The
don't think that's
baggage of
there's
life.
other healthy ways to do that. Obviously,
Yeah,
the dude who
drugs.
runs, yeah, or anything, yeah. It's just a million things you could be doing, and more power to anyone that wants to do that. And I always tell people if I became knock on wood disabled or something like that, the first thing I would do is just play GameCube for 2 years straight.
One thing I've never understood about suicide is like, you know, you could just do like a shitload of drugs and play
Yeah,
games all day
and just
and eat yourself to death.
yeah.
That's what I would do.
I know, for real. My version would just be get on a train and just like like be a hobo. Like that's my version
That's a
of.
good
I would
one.
never kill myself. I would just disappear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What would you do as a hobo?
I don't
Just
know.
go
I'd
to
probably
new
get bored and
lands.
come back.
Yeah,
About
probably.
3.5 weeks.
Yeah.
But
How long can you be a hobo?
me, not very long. I'm not able. We just lost power for like a week, and I almost let me and my girlfriend die from it. You know what I mean? It's just like I'm just so not prepared.
So what do you like how do you going back to comedy, um what how do you write? How do you get your material? How do you come up with stuff?
I the only way I can do it, which has like been successful for me, at least on a short enough timeline, is I write. I sit down, I try to write, and it's painful. And a lot of people don't write like that. Like a lot of comedians.
Well, you were saying like obviously you're not coming up with stuff on video games, but I guess what I was leading to was like sometimes ideas pop in when you're out and about.
Yeah,
I
so
guess
I'll put a
that's what I
note
was.
in my phone, and then eventually, sometimes I'll just walk up on stage and say stuff. But I like to really sit down and write something word for word. I'm sort of like I love Jerry Seinfeld, and I love that whole way of doing it, and it's just like the way. It's not even that I think it's any better or any worse than like I just it's the way it works for me. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah,
a lot
what's
of
his style? I bought his book. It's pretty cool. He like I it's hard to tell, like, did he craft those and like on a stage, or did he write them first and
it
perform them?
goes from like paper to stage to paper to
Yeah.
stage to paper to
It's
stage. So
probably
I've
like
re
iterative. You
yeah,
probably yeah.
especially longer stuff. I've probably rewritten on a yellow legal pad at least 5 or 6 times by the time I'm doing it a lot. So I've like written it, done it, rewritten it, done it. It just goes back and forth. And I really like doing it that way because it is like painful and like there's whatever resistance to writing. But when you
Hmm.
can kind of do it, I don't know. I actually like feeling that way. I like feeling bad while I'm writing. I just have that gene or whatever that
Wait, what
like
do you mean?
just being like chained to your desk and like you know being put through the arduous process of trying to write stuff on paper and hating yourself. I just like
Just looking at a blank page and be
yeah.
like, fucking what?
I
You
feel
know?
the same way everyone else feels about it because everyone says they can't do it, but I like feeling that way. I like being in a place that just is like I don't know. It's just fun. It makes me feel like I'm like an old school Hemingway. I know it's
Yeah, that's
lame,
kind of
but you
romantic.
got to yeah, you kind of got to pull.
You got to get yourself in the zone. You got to bring the
Yeah,
vibes.
it's like some
You ever
people.
hear Stephen Pressfield?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
love
he
that. That's
talks
a
about
book
the
that I'll try to
muse.
reread. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's definitely a big part of what I try to do, and
I think a
yeah,
lot of that is like setting up a consistent environment where you have like the same energy that makes you creative, and then you can continue to be creative. And for him, he has his desk and he's got the cannon that shoots the inspiration into him or whatever. Like I can't
yeah.
remember all of his
And like
things, but like,
Seinfeld says, like coffee goes here, pad goes
yep,
here,
yep.
pencil goes here, like,
You have
and
a routine
yeah,
and that brings in the same vibe that allows you to write.
and that was like sort of when I first moved to Austin. I just saw that lane. It wasn't even something. I think people get too attached to like what they want to be. I don't know. This is only in stand up. I assume it applies to other fields. But I've let it guide me. When I first started, I wanted to be like Bill Hicks or Doug Stanhope or something like that. Like, oh, I want to be the smartest guy in the room and say all this stuff. And then over time, I gained more of a love for like Mitch Hedberg and Stephen Wright and Dimitri Martin and Anthony Jeselnik. And I realized that I can do that. And that, so it's almost like you said, the muse. It's like it guided me towards a little bit of a lane. And then I just took it and ran with it because I felt like it differed me from other people
Hmm.
and it just worked for me. So I think
Yeah,
that's sometimes I think some people are fighting against themselves because they already had like this idealized image of like what kind of
totally.
artist they want to be before they're even
Totally.
like have any craft skill at it.
Yeah.
And then once you gain some craft skill, like if you're just a carpenter who doesn't really know anything, and then you start to do it and you realize you're really good at this one part of it, it's like, oh, maybe I'll make this my specialty then. But if you
Right.
had decided what your specialty was, but when you just got into the generalized field of carpenting, you probably choose the wrong thing.
That's kind of how I feel about stand up, where it was always like this bug in the back of my brain. I got to try it. I got to try it. Like I'm writing jokes. I mean, I was writing jokes years before
Yeah,
I got on stage. And I think I've always enjoyed the freedom of expression that comics have, or maybe not even enjoyed, but like desired and envied even, that they could just say anything.
yeah. And someone will
And
give you a mic, even if it's at an open mic where no one's listening. It's like truly no barrier to
it
entry.
is pretty cool to like
Yeah,
have the mic get amplified. I mean,
yeah,
but you know, my interests have kind of changed as I have gone through it, and it would be something like if it was ridiculously easy for me, that is the way I could do comedy. I think what I really enjoy is hanging out with comics.
yeah,
I think that's my favorite part.
yeah. And that's why people, that want to do stand up, I always say you should just go do it because it might be something that you unfortunately get the bug for, and then you drive to Austin and forego the rest of your life, and
Yeah.
hope that it works out. Or maybe it'll be like a thing like you said that just adds to your roundness of
Yeah,
like
rounds you out.
expressing yourself and something you always be proud of yourself that you did.
For sure, though, people need to explore anything they're interested
Yeah,
in. Otherwise, it's like this open loop in your head, and you're like, oh, I should do it. I should do it. I should do it.
yeah,
And then even if you decide that you're going to go do something different, at least you close that loop.
yeah. And that's definitely living in Austin lends itself more to coming from Massachusetts and the suburbs and stuff. It's not as you know, it's like it's just different being here. You see a lot of people that are like kind of on a limb and betting on themselves or just experiencing life a little bit more without as much worry of the
I love
future.
Austin. Apart
Yeah.
from the stand-up scene, I think that the community here is getting better and better. Of
Yeah.
people, they're cool people.
Yeah, they really are. And hopefully that means cities all across, because, all the cities across the world have been bouncing back since like COVID and all that stuff. And so I hope, I feel like it's getting better here, but then, you turn one corner and you see like a bunch of homeless tents that you didn't see before. So it's like, I don't know how much of it is me thinking it's getting better or how much of it is me,
Do you think we should help the homeless, or do you think that just keeps
Well, yeah,
them a
we should
problem?
certainly help them. I mean, I don't
What?
know.
But
The
like, then
question
they're
is
still going to
how.
be
Yeah.
alive.
No, I know.
If you
Yeah.
don't help them, maybe that problem takes care of itself.
No, I know. Yeah, it's funny. Like, I know what you mean, obviously, but when people say that, it's not the question of if we should help them or not. I think there are some people that would say giving them stuff is
What
not
about
helping.
what about this idea for the homeless?
Yeah.
This is my idea. We build a prison for them, okay?
Yeah.
And it's a safe prison where once a day we flood it with like 10,000, 10 million, I don't know, however much it makes sense, gallons of water.
Okay.
So like all of like
And
the
drown them.
okay, that's an idea. I'm going with your idea. Did we just solve homelessness in America? No,
Yeah,
no. Like the reason you do a prison is so that everyone has a safe place to sleep. That it's the opposite, where you get a keypad on the inside, so you lock yourself in from the crazies on the outside.
Okay. I mean, we'll get there eventually, probably.
Do you think
the way
that
things are
solve
going. Once we're at like French Revolution status, where it's like 98%.
Is that where we're going? We might be.
Maybe. I mean, you're a tech guy. Hopefully they'll figure something out. Once they can 3D print.
They're not going to save us. They want to
can
sell ads.
3D print food or something like that.
Well, that's true. There are some real tech innovations happening. What do you think of this 3D printed meat? Would you eat it?
Well, I was a vegan for like 2 years.
Oh yeah?
And I still say I am on stage because I've only written 5 minutes in the past year. But yeah, I would. I don't care. I don't care about my body. I was a vegan because I was from Massachusetts, and there was a lot of people that were like posting online about how liberal they were, and I thought it would be funny to be vegan so that anytime I was drunk at a party, I could be like, if you're liberal, then why can't you stop eating cheeseburgers? It's the worst thing for the planet. So I really did it out of a spite.
That's
and
good.
Then I made my Twitter name.
Diet.
Yeah, Vegan Republican was my Twitter name for like a year, which I thought was funny. Nobody else ever thought it was funny. A lot of the things I do, I think are funny, and no one else does. So
I know the feeling.
Yeah, that's like being a comedian makes you truly realize, wow, everybody else is way fun. Everyone is not trying to be a comedian. Like everyone I work with out of this restaurant job I have, some of them don't even speak English. They're so much funnier than me. They get so many more laughs.
Do they?
Yeah, they're great. I mean, they do act outs. They sing. They're happy. They're joyous. And I'm sitting over there scribbling into a notebook like I'm miserable.
Depressed. And this will get them.
Yeah. So, yeah. I'm trying to get better. This year is about, speaking on the writing thing, is coming on podcasts, being more performative, watching myself and being like, stop being awkward. You know what I mean? Trying to get better. You're a good eye contact guy. I'm not a good eye contact guy.
I'm not great. I mean, maybe just like here because we're dialed in or whatever.
We're facing directly at each other.
Yeah.
But this is a great setup, by the way.
Thanks.
But the people at home don't know. It's kind of the magic is hidden behind the cameras here.
I'm having a lot of fun, producing this stuff.
Cool.
Like way more fun than I thought I would. I was always kind of like wanting to get like booked on other people's shows, kind of like you were talking about. Like it's cool, and I always appreciate an invite to anyone who's interested.
Yeah.
But it's also fun to have your own setup because then you can really create it just the way you like.
Yeah, and then as you get better, I mean, that's the big thing is like value. Like if people are trying to get ahead on like being their own boss and shit, it's just you're gonna have to gain value. I mean, for the last 5 years, I haven't made that much money in stand-up. I've had a couple of weekends where I made hundreds of dollars.
Dude, you got paid to do stand-up.
Yeah.
That's infinitely more than me.
But the goal is that I'm acquiring enough value that someday I'll be able to really cash in on it or whatever, which is like what you're doing here is like, who knows, someone approaches you and just like will pay you a flat rate to record episodes and take it out of their hands. You know what I mean? So
that would be cool. That's something I thought about doing is like trying to set up some kind of a studio.
Yeah, you definitely, Jimmy Clifford's another guy in town who does podcasts that,
he's been on.
I know how hard that tech is with like having multiple cameras, because I've tried to do it and I immediately was like, this is not my route to success. My route to success is trying to tell stupid dick jokes so that someone else approaches me and is such a fan that they'll, you know what I mean? Or I can make them enough money.
Yeah, you can make money on a dick joke. Yeah. That's a good feeling.
Yeah.
I've never felt it, but I have to imagine.
Now that I have a girlfriend, I'm living in Austin and it's nice weather, I'm like, maybe I'll just be a waiter and not, you know what I mean? It's like, once you see the failure is not that like the secondary, what do they call it? The conciliary? What's this when you don't get when you don't win the
Oh
second prize?
yeah, I can't remember, like conciliatory prize or
Something.
something.
This is really
I know
speaking
what you
to
mean.
how good of a writer I am. But
We need an AI here.
yeah. But and I have no fear of like failure anymore because failure is actually gonna still be nice. Like if I just do open mics and the occasional good show for the next however some odd years, live with my girlfriend, eventually get a dog.
Dude, that
Yeah.
is kind of the cool thing about doing something that you're really into
Yeah.
is the fear of failure goes away because whatever the worst possible situation is better than anything else you could be doing.
Yeah, it's like when I was playing Smash Bros. In tournaments, exact opposite. I was like, if I don't get to be like one of the four people that
I've
can
wasted
afford
my
like
life.
rent by
Yeah.
playing Smash Brothers, those skills don't really translate to anything else.
Yeah, what do they translate to?
They don't give me
You
any
get quick
fulfilling.
button presses?
Yeah, I'm
I don't
not
know. How's that
fulfilled
useful?
on any level. Like at least stand up, there's some amount. Like even what I've managed to do now, like from where I started, as corny as it sounds, and I'm like far from like things I want to be doing in Austin, like shows I want to be on stuff. I still would am like very impressed by like where I started and like shows I've done. So
I
it's like,
mean,
yeah, that's like you said, just because you're doing what you want. It's like even if it doesn't work out, I'm not gonna look back and like resent that I spent. It's like when you're seeing someone that you truly care about, like
yeah,
you're not as worried about the end because you're like, that's
it's
not
just
worth it
good
because
now.
I'm just enjoying it now. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
So you do stand up and you also do writing and like kind of some sketch comedy
yeah, I
at all
write
or
scripts for myself. I've been doing that for the last few months because it just felt like a natural progression. And I really wanted to like watch movies with more like keen eye. And then I wrote a few sketches that hopefully some comedians in Austin are going to make one or two of them soon. And again, just wanted to do it, and it was fun. Me and my friend Matt decided we're just going to try to write a feature-length movie. It's going to be the worst movie ever. No one's ever going to make it or even read it. But just to get to the 190th page or whatever, the 100th page, and just be done with it.
Speaking of Jimmy, he had a quote. I can't remember who it was attributed to, but it does stick in my mind that like if you are working on something new, it's kind of going to come out like a faucet that hasn't been used a lot. So the water's kind of murky and kind of
Yeah,
dirty. But if you just let it keep running, eventually the water becomes clear.
yeah,
And so I think just in the practice of writing, just in the goal of like I want to create a script, doesn't matter if it's picked up, doesn't matter if I can sell it. Um, Being able to accomplish that is a
yeah,
cool thing.
for sure. And then doing it like you know, eventually, hopefully, I'll get paid for it. But it's like if I can do it now, it's always sort of my thing with stand up. Like I'm in the worst possible level of stand up, which
Me
is that I
too. I mean,
debatably am
actually,
spending more money.
whatever you are, I'm one lower. But
Yeah,
what
well,
is
it's
it?
like I mean, it's a half step. That's the thing. You know what I mean? Is your first whatever many years, unless you're like Michael Che, like a superstar is going to rise from nowhere in like
You
4
just
years.
get plucked out or whatever.
You're gonna be just paying money to do it. Like even if I make money here and there, I get free drinks here and there. I still am driving around a lot. It's
Hmm.
certainly I could have a better job, better hours if I wasn't doing it. But the thing I tell myself is like, well, if I'm still having fun doing it
Yeah.
on this level, that means that literally if it ever gets any better, I'll
Yeah.
be on like cloud nine. Even if I'm
Totally.
just like a feature and I make like $1,500 a month, it would be unreal to me.
Totally.
It would be like being a millionaire
Yeah.
because I'm doing this thing that is like,
I think you have to add a multiplier onto anything you do that is like your passion.
yeah,
And it's like a 10x, maybe a 50x multiplier. So if you
yeah,
earn $50, that's like $250 or whatever.
for sure. Yeah, and it feels that way. And that's another reason I like Austin. There's a lot of people that I feel like have that mindset and it reminds you to not be shitty about bad open mics or bad shows. You're just seeing people. If I call and don't do the spot, someone would be there in 4 seconds to take that spot. No matter if it's the worst, there's no one in the room. Someone's still going to show up and take it. So it makes you feel like, oh, I have to always have this mindset. It's the only way you're ever going to get really good at it is by like never forgetting, like, you know what I mean? There's still like comedians in LA that have been on TV that go to open mics. It's insane. Hans, up until he was riding private jets, was going to like 3 open mics a night. And I just think, if there's a lot more people that seem to have that mindset of go up anywhere and everywhere than the opposite mindset that are successful. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's good to like be able to grind. I mean, you really have to have that be your thing. And I think that's something I discovered like in the process of doing it is like this is something that has to be low friction for me in order to pursue it. I'm not willing to sacrifice my entire life to it.
Yeah.
But there are people like Hans that are like, I'll live in a fucking van
Yeah.
for
It's
this.
crazy. Yeah. And it really, I mean, maybe it's actually a bad thing because for every one Hans, there's 1,000 me's that are just going to chase that dream off to the edge of the earth. Oh, but I've made peace with that. So, but,
well, but it comes
also
back
it's
to like if you're
cyclical.
doing what you love,
Yeah,
then
exactly. And it's cyclical. Like you may feel that way about the low friction now, but you know, I think it's like going to the gym. Like when I first started stand up, I could only bear the psychic pain of doing it a few times a month
hmm.
because I was so bad. I mean, if anyone thinks I'm bad now in the YouTube comments, you would not believe me in Western Massachusetts in 2018. But so someday maybe you will feel more,
Right,
or you'll
because
have
you set up
yeah.
routines and you have your places that
Or you get
you
an avenue,
know the
yeah. You
stage
say,
and you
wow,
get
yeah. You say, wow, this guy who's a booker now says I can come down every week and do spots. That's like a lot of great, you know what I mean?
So really, I mean, the way to do it is to remove the friction by doing it a ton. That's how
Yeah,
you remove the
yeah,
friction.
yeah. And I mean, the reason I do it a ton too is definitely like maybe not narcissism so much as like I love the feeling of having written something on a piece of paper at 10:30 a.m. that's really silly and stupid, and then knowing I'm going to go somewhere and either make someone laugh or bum them out by saying it, because it tends to be where my jokes go. Last night, I mean, the first joke did so well at this crappy Buzzmill open mic. It was raining. And then I bombed the rest of the set, but just that one joke. And that was the one I was walking around all day being like, I can't wait to tell this one. And so that's where like, I'm a kind of a one-liner guy. So once I have one or two in my head, and I used to tell them to people off stage, and now I've learned, no, I want to save all that momentum for saying it the first time. Because it's so funny to me, because if it works, it's great. I bask in the glory of being a genius. And then usually when it doesn't work, it's funny to me that I was looking forward to this moment and now it's not worked.
Yeah.
That's kind of where stand-up is like very, like you said.
There's the risk involved. Like
friction,
if you say something wrong, you're like, fuck, like, can I go back and correct it? No, just let it go.
Yeah. And when you think, I think the friction, the way it got a little easier for me was really laughing at the, like, wow, this is hilarious. Like when it's going bad, because I do it so much, it's like the funniest. When my friends are bombing, it's the funniest.
Yeah.
I'm friends with some of the most artistic bombers in Austin. One of my favorite guys, I mean, when he's doing great, it's funny. Matt Hart, he just moved to Austin a few months ago. When he's doing great, it's funny. When he's doing bad, it's the funniest thing I've ever seen in the world, because he just sort of like, he flounders in such a magical way when the crowd doesn't like him. And I am so jealous of it, because I like completely go into myself and like really like turn off, and he just keeps trying. And I think, I don't know, that's probably what's got me through it, because you do have to be a little bit like, you know, delusional to be doing this.
Psychotic.
Yeah, psychotic to be doing this, because most nights it's awful. Like, you know what I mean? I brought in like first dates when I lived in Boston to like the wrong comedy night when I didn't do well. They never will talk to you ever again. Yeah, because they're like, this is what you do every single night. They don't understand. They're like, no, 1 out of 10 times. I do like,
1 out of the people chuckle once in every 10.
I do a seafood restaurant, and then they give me free shrimp because I did so good. You know what I mean? Like they don't understand the big time.
Yeah.
But,
this is what's possible if you stick to your dreams.
Yeah, it is fun though. It's like a street. George Carlin calls it a street art, and I think that's what it's like right in my lane, where I'm like, I think I'm creative enough to do it, but I don't think I was ever going to write a novel if left to my own devices. That's like too much of a, like I can get up every night for 4 minutes and build something over time.
Yeah.
I'm not going to like send somebody a manuscript of like 1,800 pages. You know, I'll never be able to finish that much, but I can write a few 40-word jokes. Like,
yeah, I don't even think I would be interested in trying something like that. For me, the things that I like are much more like improv and just broadcasting live.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it is.
Broadcasting, I'm really bad at it, but I do like it. My brother went to Emerson for a year, Emerson College. And I've always wanted to do like sports broadcasting, but I just never, you know what I mean?
Well, I just mean by broadcasting, I mean, I just like whatever is on my mind, just speaking it out loud.
Yeah, for sure. And being on camera. That's what I came here to do. I'm going to watch this later and be very critical of like my my body language.
Judging everything. This, that.
Yeah, I just feel like I have to do it. You know what I mean? Some people seem so natural on stage, and then I'm like, I think I could get there by like.
Well,
picking
that's
up
one
on-
idea I've had about bombing is like, there kind of is a way never to bomb, even if you are bombing, which is what you said, which is your buddy that like,
Yeah.
he just like, I don't know, like you find a way to just like laugh at yourself or enjoy
Or
it
get
or
something out of it.
yeah,
You
just
know?
get something out of it.
Yeah, that's what I have so many stupid one-liner quotes from comedians. Hannibal Buress said that, where he's like, if you're doing the worst open mic ever, there's one thing you can get out of it. There is, even if it seems like there isn't, there is. And if you just focus on getting that out of it, then all the people that leave the restaurant being like, holy shit, that kid is fucking
Yeah,
a train wreck.
fucking
You
cringe.
just can say to yourself, you don't know what I was.
Yeah.
I got what I needed out of this. You know.
It is a little bit selfish in that way. And I kind of feel bad, like with even this podcast, like I do everything exactly the way I want to.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, oh, you should be thinking about the person watching. And I'm like, they'll watch if they like it. And if not, I'm having fun.
Yeah, especially when you're trying to get better at something. Like I'm just getting to the point in my stand up now where I try to imagine being in the front row and like what I would want a comedian like, but,
it's good exercise
but
to
up
put
until
yourself in the
now, it's-
audience. And
Yeah, up until now, it's like I don't even know what I don't know. So I've just been flying by the seat of my pants. And then I
Totally.
found this cool lane of writing one-liners. And even though now I feel it's so funny because as a comedian, you can be completely unsuccessful and then still feel trapped by your act. It's like I have a 10-minute act or whatever, but it took me 4 years to build it. So it's like, oh no, now I want to be a storyteller. And it seems it's like funny because that's like something that like major artists go through because it's millions of dollars riding on the line. But
how do you mean millions riding on the line?
like if a band like wants to go with a different sound, it can be like
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
it
like
can really trouble the members of the
Totally.
band. It can be this weird like
But that's why you always have to just follow your interest to the max so that you don't get siloed into one thing. Now, people say you need to find a niche and you need to stick to that and grow it. But like, what if your niche is following your interests?
Yeah. For sure. And just doing what, that really it's like the Roganology. It's just doing what you love and like.
Is that his philosophy?
I mean, he just went podcasting when he started. It was like, so.
Yeah. Why do you think he started a podcast?
I think someone mentioned the idea to him and he was like, that sounds fun. I'll do it. And then,
is that for real?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And then I think other people even told him along the way, like, this is stupid. No one's ever going to. And like you said, it's like, well, worst case, I just did a thing with my friend.
Yeah.
Him and Brian Redband are friends. It's like we just did a thing. It wasn't successful. I moved on to the next thing.
We would be having this exact same conversation at Creek.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's very cool. I mean, I'm a big, also, I always respond to invisible internet people that don't exist. Everyone thinks Rogan's bad at stand-up in the YouTube comments. The guy who goes and sees him a lot, dude, that guy crushes. He's very funny. He knows how to do stand-up.
Oh, yeah.
And anyone in the comments has not paid a ticket to see him do a headlining set because I went there trying to be snobby guy who just moved here from Boston, Massachusetts, who's in the underground of stand-up. And I'm like, and then I went and saw him and I was like, this man is a master.
He's a true professional.
He's very funny. Oh, he's so funny.
But I have to say, I do think that like where he freaking shines is on his podcast. Not that I've seen a ton of his stand up. I've seen him perform a few times over the years, but like there's something that I think he set a standard for in podcasting that I don't know, man. It's interesting. He's an interesting figure. We have a few people out there.
He's like Letterman. I mean, my dream of dreams is to be on the Joe Rogan podcast.
That'd be pretty fun, right?
The way, that people thought about going on Letterman, the way that people wanted to be on.
They call him the male Oprah.
Yeah, I mean, and
I didn't even know who Oprah is, but
I think it's funny to shit on him because it's clearly this punching up. I mean, it's classic humor, and I think a lot of people online don't like him. So when you shit on him, people will like that.
What's not to like about him?
I listen to him so much that it would be so not genuine of me to be like over. Like, I mean, it's less nowadays than it used to be. But there was a point when I started doing stand up where I was listening to nothing but him and Bill Burr's podcast every day for like hours on end. Like,
oh, I'm an expert.
Yeah, I mean, now what I do is, this is my craziness. Pick a comedian I like. I go back to the first time they appeared on the show, and I'll go listen to every one.
That's really cool.
And but actually, you start to realize that every comedian tells the same like two stories.
Right.
Greg Fitzsimmons, like my favorite comedian, he just fucking tells the same 3 stories about growing up in Massachusetts in every podcast. I used to do when I was Ubering last year. Would listen to the same you feel psychotic because it's like you've listened to 50 hours of this guy
Yeah.
now, like the
Yeah.
same guy on, but like over 4 years of his life, 6 years of his
Who else
life.
do you listen to? What, like, any YouTubers, any creators you like?
I like iDubbbz.
I don't know them. Who's that?
iDubbbz, he's like a
iDubbbz.
YouTuber. He's just a very interesting kind of YouTuber. I like this guy Sam Hyde a lot. He's a comedy guy that's sort of he's controversial sometimes online, but I enjoy a lot of his content. Um, let's think. And then other than that, yeah, it's just like stand-ups. I mean, I'm getting away from listening to stand-ups and comedy podcasts because I don't want it to like infer too much of what I talk about because I do really short form jokes, so it's very easy for me to like
Get influenced and
yeah,
kind of
do a
get their voice in
similar
your head
beat.
or
Yeah,
whatever.
similar beat
Hmm.
to what someone does on a podcast because a lot of podcasts are a quick thing like in your head. Um, but the Adam Friedland show is very funny if anyone wants to look it up. And I try to like listen to more niche small stuff. There's a podcast I listen to called Worst Possible Timeline. It's a singer of a band that I listen to, and another guy who works on like Netflix. He's like a producer. Um, and they probably have like 4,000 listeners, 6,000 listeners per episode. So it's definitely like smaller. And I like listening. And it's a funny podcast, but they're not comedians. So I try to almost get out of. You don't want to be like you can't be in something 100% of the time.
But sometimes you find something, you're like, that's my drug. That's my
Yeah,
fucking
for a few
drug.
weeks for sure, but then eventually, like
No,
worst
you just
possible
want to
time.
do the drug every day forever. It's a
Yeah,
fucking great drug.
I know it's hard.
It's probably not healthy, but
Yeah, I just think maybe sometimes with comedians, I don't. I'm like I'm past the point where I like listening to like albums, obviously, and watching specials, but I want to develop some type of. Obviously, my personality is not
your
fully
own
developed
thing. Yeah.
on screen and on podcasting and stuff, and I think that I need to like try to erase some of that from my head. But it's cyclical. Like after I write like 10 minutes in a month, maybe I'll go back to and I'll listen to like 10 episodes of a comedy podcast I haven't listened to in a long time.
People get in your head, man.
Yeah,
Like I listened to a ton of Jordan Peterson, and then I
yeah,
would always be saying exactly right or whatever. Like you get like their mannerisms,
yeah.
their turns of phrases.
And you just
But
know
I don't
when,
even think that's bad. It's almost like first an homage, and also like there's something that resonates with that creator.
yeah,
Like maybe like the way Lex Friedman is a podcaster I love, like the way he asks questions, or like there's something that resonates with you. And I think that's one of the coolest things about podcasting in general is it creates an opportunity to like surface not only these creators, but all the minds that they find.
yeah,
And then everyone gets to like participate in this marketplace of ideas. And it really only takes like one good, like you and I are going to have a million good ideas in this exchange, but it
yeah.
really, for me, only takes one good idea to make it really worth it.
Yeah, and I know that's like my mindset behind. I read all the hacky comedy books. I've read every single one. I watch all the writing podcasts, and that's my mindset. Is like there's this podcast called Hot Breath, and I think there
Hmm.
are episodes and there's stuff you can glean off it that might not be pertinent to me specifically.
I've
But
seen
then
it. Who is that? Hot Breath. I've
um,
seen that on YouTube.
Joel Byers, he's a comedian, and he does a really inside baseball podcast about stand-up comedy. And some of the stuff is not for me. Like sometimes comedians will say something and I won't agree necessarily. But then if there's one thing I take out of the podcast that I carry with me while doing stand-up, it's
Yeah,
well worth
right.
the 2 hours of just in the background noise while I was doing something else.
And that's a lot of what like this how people consume this type of
Yeah.
content is like an audiobook.
Yeah.
You're doing other stuff, you're working out, you're cleaning.
Yeah, it's very cool. And there is like a lot of stuff
Yeah,
to
it
be
is
gained.
cool.
I mean, I didn't go to college for writing. I don't, and I'm far from,
I didn't graduate high school.
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
So it's like I'm far from, but even the fact that I have 5 minutes that will make most people in all the 50 states laugh is a testament to podcasting. Because I
No,
don't have
where do you put your stuff? I've seen your clips on
Instagram.
Instagram.
I have a TikTok, but because I'm a good American, I'll delete it and then I'll re-download it when I want to upload clips, and then I
Nice.
delete it again.
Same for me, but with Pornhub.
Yeah, I don't need them to be spying on
Yeah.
my activity. And then Instagram and YouTube. Instagram is the big one. I think that's what to speak like a douchey LA person. That's what I connect with the most. I just feel like I get the most reach out like random people. Like I have a few people on Instagram And they're the funniest people in the world. I actually like the few. I wouldn't call them fans because it's not like I sell tickets or anything like that. But there's a few people who followed me off Kill Tony or followed me off a random thing that really enjoy what I do that I don't know, and they're so funny. They're just like Gen Z kids that only post TikToks. There's no real pictures of themselves on their profiles, and the TikToks they post are so bizarre. I don't even understand them. And I realized the other day how much I love that those are the people that really will like stick with me. I'm like, I just gotta gain more of these weird, like
Yeah.
eccentric, like shut in, sort of nerdy,
That's your crowd.
nerdy Gen Zers. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it seems to be the people that like the few people that have fucked with me on Instagram, and I like that. I don't even know what they look like. That's the coolest part is that I'm not giving them anything except my content, and they seem to
No
like it.
dick pics, nothing.
Yeah, it's like cool. It's just cool to like not have an obligation to someone past because your friends will be like, "I'll come see you because you're my friend," and you'll be like, "Yeah, but would you pay $10 to see me if I wasn't your friend?" And when you have a few
That's a
people,
great question.
yeah, and I don't expect them to. Like, there's that stupid TikTok that says, "Why aren't you famous yet? Because you didn't buy my shit." It's like, yeah, I don't want my friends to just buy my shit. I want my shit to be
Yeah,
good.
that's true.
Yeah,
You don't want people to just like support you arbitrarily.
yeah.
You want people to support you because it's fucking great.
Yeah, all my closest comedian friends are the people like shout outs to Jesse Burlingame, shout outs to Ben, shout outs to Alex Olinger. Because when I get off stage and I did bad, they'll be like, "Wow, that was bad," and I'll be like, "Thank you," because I can't live in this world. I want to be good at this. I don't want to.
Yeah. You don't want to be diluted into
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's so cool to like have a few people online and sort of see the beginnings of, oh, if I could get this to 500
Yeah.
people, then I get it to 5,000 people, and because they do all fill a similar mold. I've noticed on their profiles.
Really?
Yeah, it's their weird anime profile picture people.
Mine's like
That's
50-year-old women. Wait, what's yours? Anime?
yeah, like I would say 18 to 23, like trying to figure out life, maybe a bit on like maybe an undiagnosed condition or two mentally, and it's funny. I messaged one of them today because they post like 4 TikToks on their story, and I thought they were so funny. So I was just like, "Oh, your story game's A plus," and dude, like, I only bring the best memes to my. They're all meme, like they're like meme 22-year-old kids. It's very funny. Like they make me feel old.
Do you follow them back?
I will sometimes I follow back when they're private and they don't even accept it, but they continue to follow me and comment. And dude, yeah, that means it's so sappy to say, but I'm just like to have anything that anybody's even worth 8 seconds of their time
Yeah.
is like, thank you.
It's legit.
Yeah, it's very cool.
But it's cool that there's even an opportunity to put your stuff out there, see if it resonates with people, and kind of like build that toehold of people that support your shit.
Yeah.
And you got to be so grateful that anyone finds anything you do interesting, because like that's the whole thing in entertainment is you're trying to present something like
Yeah.
I want attention, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, trying to
like
get
why
people's
do
time.
people want to be entertainers? I asked myself this.
Yeah.
Didn't get enough attention, grew up fat. Fuck, what is it?
Yeah, it's a lot of things. It's definitely if anyone pretends like it's not mostly like a narcissistic thing, I think they're
Mhm.
kidding themselves. And then for me, there's some amount of fulfillment from it.
And now I do think there's some really good like actors, and
Yeah.
they just found out that they can take on these different roles and these different characters, and they can portray them in a really convincing way that tells a story, and that's really cool. But I think a lot of people are just like, how much attention can I get, and
Yeah,
what can I
but
get
honestly,
paid for
if,
it?
if you ride that to the top, like I'm sure Kevin Hart is probably kind of like that, but it worked out pretty well for him. So,
Yeah, he's a good example of
identifying
of a
those
brand guy. I
motivations,
like
yeah.
those guys actually. I totally respect that.
Yeah, and like identifying your motivation for it, I guess that's what I've tried to eliminate. Not just like because when I moved here, I was just like, I don't want to be toxic. That's what everyone is always telling themselves. Because stand up drags you into that, no matter
Mhm.
who you are. But I said, not only do I not want to be toxic, but I want to understand the motivations behind why I'm being toxic, and I want to see why it's stupid. So like let's say I run into someone out here that just produces all their own shows and seems to get booked because of that. Maybe they do podcasting and they don't do stand up the way that I think it should be done. I used to be like, well, I'm going to ignore that because even though it bothers me. But now I'm like, why does it even bother me? This person is just navigating, trying to get sort of to the same destination I am, trying to get money in their pocket. They're not taking any money out of my pocket, certainly. You know what I mean? And then that's good for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They can learn from me and I can learn from them. And like, there's not like a,
People have weird motivations.
yeah.
And they don't analyze themselves and ask why they're motivated to take the actions and do the things that they do.
Yeah.
But I think that's really important because otherwise you end up hurting people.
Yeah.
And you end up getting in your own way and fucking yourself over in so many different ways also.
For sure.
So like even selfishly, you should like try to analyze like what are you doing and why. And even if it's a little toxic, that's fine. Like I don't think
Yeah.
there's anything wrong with wanting a little bit of attention. But more power to you if you have no desires for that. If you're
Yeah.
totally content with just like a regular life.
I just have been proven stand up is really good, and this will probably be, the only time. I hate saying stuff like this sometimes on podcasts because it does get into such an earnest place, and then you see my act and you're like, okay. But it's stand up is this thing where people will always make the joke now that they'll show that meme of Rogan and they'll say like comedians think they're philosophers and they just talk about diarrhea on stage or whatever, which is true. I mostly talk about diarrhea on stage. But what stand up does is
Whitney
it's
Cummings
this.
comes to mind.
Yeah, what stand up does is not the philosophy as far as like their stand up act. It's most of the people that have done it have had this solitary like sail boat through an ocean that they didn't know they were going through, and these life experiences have forged them to be this sort of uniquely like
To craft a perspective.
yeah, and like an armor against, I mean, even me being on Kill Tony 3 times, doing bad ones, doing okay ones, and doing good ones. This armor
Nice.
that I've built up to like, okay, so the good comments and the bad comments are all sort of meaningless. You can use them to
Mhm.
guide you, but just being like, I got to keep doing it, and like these are always going to come. These are all going to happen. Sometimes 11 bad comments are going to happen on the same day.
Yep.
But then the next day where you have 7 good comments is right around the corner, and just also
Or an invite, or like it
yeah,
leads to something.
and you all of a sudden feel better. And so that's
Yeah.
like why I really find comedians interesting, especially the ones that have managed to succeed. Are like, you really can't get through that fire without being like changed by it, I think. And it's probably true
Yeah.
with band members. I mean, I know a lot of friends that are in touring bands that are becoming bigger and bigger, and I see them changing in a good way, like, becoming, grown men. Like, and now we're all 30, but these guys are now having income and they drive around the country in a van. And that's what, like we said, even if I fail at stand up, I'll just be such a better person and
Well, I think
such,
you're right. I think
yeah,
there's something about it that changes you, and
yeah,
I'm not sure what it is.
yeah. I
Well,
think,
first of all, you're thinking outside the box. You're sitting down and you're writing. I don't know how you write, but like for me, it's a lot of, and I'll do this even if I'm not performing. I'll just write about things that frustrate me.
yeah,
And you're just trying to get like whatever's inside on the page, not even on the page, out of you. It's almost like poison. You got to get it out.
yeah,
But sometimes it's not poison. Sometimes it's good stuff. But
yeah.
either way,
Most of the time, it's bad.
yeah, most of the times it's
My,
bitching about what
my,
you're pissed about.
yeah, my batting average is incredibly low with my writing. It's the stuff that I keep.
Well, I think that's like everyone though. Like any writer, I don't know where I've heard this, but you got to delete, like editing is like deleting 90% of what you write.
Yeah,
Like anytime I go back and read what I wrote like months ago, I'm like, fucking cringe.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
why did I have to say it like that, you dork?
We probably have some crossover in the writing books that I've at least scanned. There's one that says, there's 2 brains. There's when you're writing initially, it's like no editing at all, and then you go back as like the scribe and you look at
Hmm.
it and be like,
The editor.
yeah, the real editing or whatever.
Yeah.
And then and just writing is, if anyone out there is a writer, like especially if you're a stand-up comedian, there's one thing I can say. I try to give like hard advice. When you have stuff that works, it's mostly just rewriting stuff. Like you always want to be building new material, adding new minutes. But the thing I've learned in the last few months is like rewriting. Once you have some nuggets of stuff that works, really rewriting that and trying to expand on it. And really,
Yeah.
that's like a big thing that I wish I had done more of than always trying to write new jokes. Jason
Yeah,
Rodriguez, a great
refine.
comedian from Austin, kind of
I gotta talk to him more.
tipped
I
me
haven't
into
seen
that.
him in a bit.
He's amazing. Like he's actually reached. I thought he was amazing when I moved here, and he's very much.
Oh,
like,
he's a great comic. I've seen him perform maybe like a half dozen times, and I've seen him do really well at
he's
Crete.
much like me on stage too. Like I like guys like that because they show me that if I keep working, I can get there doing it the way I do it, which is mostly writing heavy jokes and standing still and delivering. But recently he's taken that and he learned how to get to that next level with like acting out a little bit more, just being a little bit more himself on stage. He's been like absolutely crushing it the last 3 times I saw him. But he said, honestly, I was writing like less new stuff and just like
Refining.
ironing, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Like it's cyclical. Like sometimes I'll go to 15 mics in a week, and other weeks I won't. And you just have to be honest with yourself. Am I not going to a mic because I'm lazy, which is most of the time.
I was gonna say that's like all the time for me.
But once in a while, it is like, no, it's because I had these shows this week, and I'm really more focused on refining these chunks than I am. An open mic for
Yeah.
me is really only worth going there to say stuff that I've only said less than 3 times on stage. Like that's what I'm doing at an open mic. You probably will see me do a few old jokes at an open mic. It's because I got scared while I was up there and I started doing bad, and that's like my panic mode. But
Well,
if
you
I'm
need something to fall back on.
yeah, but if I'm at an open mic and I'm really working the way I want to be working, I hope to show up there with a few new minutes every week. Like,
Can you share any premises with us of like stuff that you like thinking about or talking about or
well, I see all my things are one-liners. So like I did this joke last night. I say, I saved a girl from a train once. I pushed her out of the way and let all those guys fuck me instead.
oh my god.
It's just a stupid one-liner joke I thought of. Now I've already got tags for it. I'm trying to get because it worked. So now I'm like, oh, one thing works. Now I can jump off that and try to make two more train jokes, like because now we're already into the. So that's kind of how I operate, but it's not how most people in Austin do it. Most people in Austin are much more. I wish I had more of a point of view. Hans said that to me one time. He's like, "Yeah, but what do you want to say on stage?" And I'm like, "I don't know, dude. I just like writing." Silly. Dimitri Martin is like probably Dimitri Martin and Anthony Jeselnik are probably like my two favorite comedians of all time.
One of my favorite things that he said at an open mic was, "We all get to pretend to play comedian." This is before he blew up, and he was like, "We all get to pretend." That's how I feel about this podcast. Sometimes we all get to pretend to play podcaster.
Yeah,
but I got some clips. We'll get some clips out of this.
And you're only pretending until you aren't. So it's like,
right.
You know what I mean? As lame as that sounds, I think there is a.
Well, there's a quote that like. Shit, it's not fully coming to mind, but it's something around the idea that you have to like be a pretender. It's not fake it until you make it. It's that any artist starts out as an imposter.
Yeah, like steal
you
like
have
an
to
artist.
mimic other things, what other people have done.
Yeah.
And then through that process, you find your voice and your style.
And I'm a cynic at heart. So like, I'm like currently I don't do my own podcast because I'll regret when this one goes online. I'm talking about stuff so earnestly and shit that I said, but I'm starting to let go of. I'm starting to let go of that, like cynical or feeling like you have to just go for it. Like I moved to Austin, Texas. Yeah. I let go of a full-time career. I haven't seen my family in a year. Everything about my life is different. So to hold back because I don't want to seem like I'm trying too hard or whatever, it's like very silly.
Yeah, especially when your actions are like very geared toward this one end.
Yeah. And like some of my favorite comedians ever, like Nick Mullen, I got in this, he's very cynical and he hates comedy, because comedy beats you down. And I, for a while, was doing that because I think it's funny that he does that. But I noticed that that's not how I am towards it. I still have this like glossy eyed, I'm going to make it type look. And it's okay that I feel like that way. And I don't have to shy away from it.
But there is something about a cynic that makes a good comedian because they see the bullshit and they see how things are wrong.
For
and
sure.
They're like, Bill Burr.
But only if it's your act. Like Bill Burr has done his whole life. He's talked about how this anger is the biggest thing that plagues my life. And I try to keep it contained to my act now.
But that's what makes him so
That's how I feel
funny.
about like my cynicism or my I'm a real artist. I want to keep that to my act as a funny character. I don't want that to be me. Because that's not me. I listen to pop music. I'm a dork. No one is as cool. Austin, a lot of people do think they're very cool.
I'm pretty fucking cool.
You meet at bars. I'm talking about like metal and punk dudes.
I'm a dork. I'm the world's biggest dork.
Like people, they're so tattooed. It's like you used to have to be like cool to earn like tattoos. You know what I mean? Like you had to have lived a life. And now people come out of like college looking like they toured.
Yeah, they got a full sleeve.
Yeah, like they toured Leonard Skinner for fucking 20 years. And it's like, no, I have a remote call center.
You have any tattoos?
I have a few. One on my calf.
Ass cheek. Oh.
It's a picture of it's like a band's logo. It's a bomb, but I got it tattooed like weeks before the Boston bombing happened. And so I remember I was walking around, I was wearing shorts during the summer when I found out it happened. And I was like, shit, this is like, people are going to think, I don't know.
Well, luckily it's been long enough.
Yeah.
You could get a joke out of that though, I feel.
Maybe. That's actually a good point. That's another reason I want to do podcasts too, because I don't do off script on stage a lot. Like I only talk to a crowd if they force me to. If they've decided that what I do is not what they want Mr.
Interaction or whatever.
So I'm trying to do pods more because it puts me way out of my element. Speaking off script.
Well, the nice thing about doing open mics is if you have a good group of comics, like Alden has his tag mic.
Yeah. And
they'll just give you tags. And some of those are really good.
Yeah. I sometimes I'm a little too sensitive for the tags sometimes.
Like you don't like to do stuff that other people wrote.
Yeah, no, I just like isolate from it because sometimes I take it the wrong way or it's totally my problem. It's not like anyone's ever given me a tag and they've meant, but somehow I think like, oh, they think they're funnier than me, but I know
better
that,
than me.
Yeah, I know that about myself. So I have to sort of insulate my act from other comedians sometimes, even ones that I like. Cause, I do get in my own head. Like, you know, my friend Cody one time about a thing I wanted to do during one of the stories I was writing. He's like, I don't like doing that. It involved playing a sound effect off my phone. And it stuck with me. And I was like, oh, Cody says it's lame. And it's so funny because even he would tell you, well, just do it, even though I think it's lame. Like, you got to try
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But so I know that about myself now. And it almost affects the way I would say it once someone else puts their grubby hands on it.
Yeah.
So I try to insulate. Yeah.
Sometimes you do have to insulate. Well, I see it both ways. Like, I think in general, you should just express yourself to the max. Like, I don't know, people get all being like, oh, you shouldn't overshare. You shouldn't get too personal. Yeah. Like, you don't want to maybe like call out your grandma on your podcast or whatever. Like, there's a limit to like oversharing for sure. But, in general, I think people that are trying to create something novel, interesting, they should just follow their intuition, follow their interests. And even if it's cringy or bad, at least you got it out of you.
Yeah.
And I think there's always going to be somebody that resonates with you because you are a man like other men.
Yeah.
And there's going to be somebody out there like your anime guys or whatever that dig your material.
Yeah, no, and it's been said over and over again, but that is a lot of like eventually with stand up you start to see little peaks in like into, oh, I was really being me when this happened. So like now that I have like sort of a 10 minutes or 15 minutes, there'll be moments in shows where I'm doing well enough that I get enough rope to be more improvisational because I feel that the crowd likes me a lot. And I'm not able to do that. I mean, bless anybody like, although Casey Rocket's not completely improv, but bless anyone that can go on stage with that energy without knowing how the crowd.
But he's got a framework. He's definitely got a framework.
No, for sure. But he goes up there and he's going to do that whether or not the crowd fucks with him or not, which is insane to me.
20 more minutes, 3 more hours.
Yeah, because I can only build
I love his energy. I want him on the show.
I can only build up to that when I know when my jokes have earned X amount of laughter from the audience and they have given me their seal of approval. Then you'll start to see me say some shit that that I'm thinking of on the spot. And when I'm in that mode is when I'm really like, oh, so that's who I'm going to be eventually. Once I can just be that guy more of the time.
Yeah.
But so my version of it is having these tight written jokes, these one-liners, and then in between I get to try my stupid thoughts. And so when that one doesn't work, I can go right back.
But how do you know when you are in that zone?
It just like now that I've been doing stand-up 4 or 5 years, there's a notable difference between a show that when I get off stage, I'm going to kiss my girlfriend and say, this is a great night. Show. And there's a show where she knows I'm going to get off stage and we're going to ride home in silence. Which shout outs to her. I got to deal with that better. We've had a couple of rides in silence because I can't get it out of my own feels. Honestly, it's because like I'm looking at her like, isn't it embarrassing to date me after watching me do that?
But there's got to be like something that you can tell when you're in the zone.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it is for myself even.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so like meticulous with the writing of it that eventually I just have a set where I can kind of do it on autopilot, and when the crowd just starts fucking with me immediately, then just it's all systems go and it's fun.
Because don't you feel like the crowd and like even it's hard to say the crowd, but like how people react to you is going to shape you for sure.
Like, I come out of my shell 100%. It's actually something I have to work on. Like, and it's fun. You can really glean things off of Tony when I was on Kill Tony. I did my set, and then afterwards I put the mic back in the stand. He immediately noted my body language. He was like, oh, your body language has shifted entirely. And it was funny because I don't think anyone else noticed it. Of course, I've watched it 100 times. And he just immediately caught on to something, which is like, oh, I hide behind my act on stage a lot, to the point where if I don't have my act, I feel like I'm like naked on stage. So I'm like crossing my arms and I'm like, I'm not
like holding the mic and stuff.
Yeah, now I'm this different person. Yeah. I'm no longer a comedian. Where some people are the opposite. So some people are just on, I mean, that's what Austin taught me. Some comedians are just fucking
But they've trained it, don't you think?
Some of them, and then some of them are just, they've had this moment where they turned, a lot of them have had like a turning moment, like Casey, like living in his car, moving here, Hans, like they had this moment where they just decided like, this is it. Fuck it if you like it, fuck it if you don't. Like,
I think you have to have that attitude because what you're presenting is your take.
Yeah, and I'm getting there. I mean, my version of it's a lot different. Like, that's the thing, you can learn so much. Me and Casey, if you watched us both on stage, we're so different. One, he's funny, I'm not. But two, he's like physical. He's so like Jim Carrey-esque almost, like
Hmm.
Rory Scovel.
Tons of
But
energy.
but what I learned from him was what I do. I love that Jeselnik thing. I love saying a one-liner, and I'm growing to love the laughs as much as I am the oh. Last night I said a joke right after the train joke that worked. That empty. I never said before. I said guilty is a weird word to use in a courtroom. Like, oh, we find the defendant guilty. Says who? I'm glad that bitch is dead. And it was just some joke about like saying it's a weird term, but I didn't realize how harsh it was gonna sound when I said it because I was only reading it. And when I said it, there was a girl in the front row that was just like, oh, because it is like, oh yeah, that is like a violence against women joke. I wasn't really thinking. I'm doing like a Seinfeld-esque like guilty is a weird word.
Yeah.
But I kind of like that because I'm like, now we both are alive now because I feel
Yeah.
weird about saying that in front of you. You feel kind of shook because you liked me for a second and now you don't like me. So, and that's what I learned watching Casey. I'm like, cool, I'm going to lean more into my thing. I like making
Yeah.
people, it's funny that with a stupid joke I wrote sitting at my desk smoking weed, that I can make you uncomfortable a little bit and then make you laugh afterwards.
Yeah.
It's the goal eventually.
Yeah. Make people feel something first of all,
Yeah.
and then ideally have it be funny.
And I used to shy away from
But
that.
at least you're feeling something.
I have a lot of clean minutes because I didn't like when it went wrong. And, you know, my girlfriend would be like, why do you do those jokes? People don't like them. But like you said, I'm like, well, I'm tapping into something. They're paying attention, which is like for a long time.
Yeah, that's actually 80%
That wasn't
of
even
it.
the case for the first 3 years of my, doing stand-up. People would just talk over me. So the fact that now people are like, what the fuck is this guy going to say next is also there's some power. It's fun. Again, the narcissistic thing is like, I have the power. I can ruin your date right now if I wanted to. I have jokes in the bank to ruin your day.
Yeah. Some comedians have said shit and it sticks with me, and I'm just like, I can remember it, and I'm like, is that why you said it? So that it sticks with me.
I've been to shows with my girlfriend, with previous women that I've dated, where the comedian does a certain type of joke, and it's just weird between me and her last night because they nailed it. They nailed some dynamic that we were going through at the time. And that's so funny to me that a guy can just like roll up, get paid $20 and shake the foundation of like your relationship with a stupid joke about the differences between men and women. All right.
But when you show up to a club, like you're a comedy fan, what are you there for?
Me personally?
Or as a fan, or like, what do you think people that go to see live stand up are there for?
I like to think romantically that it is it's the last like people are yearning for not their screen or whatever. They want to be in person.
For what?
For not being in their screen. Like, stand up is very visceral.
It's very
like,
live.
But, part of me thinks that's probably just because I'm in the business, and that more likely it's more like vaudeville where it's like on its way out. You know what I mean?
You think so?
Who knows, dude? I mean, do you think the vaudeville guys in the 20s thought they probably thought they were going to be printing money for the rest of their fucking life?
Really? I don't know. I think that slapstick is like kind of a little dorky.
I know, but it's easy. I mean, look at 80s comedy. It's super dorky. You know what I mean? So
I think that's what's cool about how stand-up has evolved is it's more about, first of all, just calling out bullshit, saying wrong shit that you're not supposed to say. I don't know. Maybe this is just what I'm into.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's like cultivating, like Theo Vaughn is a guy who's cultivated this audience weirdly, because when you see him on the surface, you're like, this guy's, funny, he's goofy, but he's a very sensitive guy, and his podcast is gets into his emotions,
very honest,
gets into his sobriety, and he's sort of garnered this whole section of the internet by being himself and doing that. So that's part of stand-up too. That's what I'm learning with like, it seems like most of the people that fuck with me on my Instagram play Minecraft or whatever. But it's funny because like if I was their age, I would be playing Minecraft too. So like it makes sense. So that's the other part of it where it's like it's cool that now people can really get a vibe. That's what I like to do with musicians. I like knowing everything about a musician's life, where they grew up, what apartment they lived in, like
because it provides color to their music.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting from a person who has their own.
You ever find somebody and you're like, oh my God, that's the guy.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have a few.
It's a good feeling.
And I have a few. I'm like a pretentious music guy. So like I'm pretentious, but not like jazz and stuff, like with punk music and shit. But I have a few people. But then you find people and you're like, wow, this guy's a horrible person. But that's also.
Can you separate the musician from the artist? Yeah, me too. Like, I don't give a shit that Kanye West is a terrible person. I don't even think he's that terrible. I think he's a contrarian that likes to say wrong shit only. He's kind of like a comic in that way.
And he's over covered. He's like a very much a voyeuristic, like, you know what I mean? Anyone who's covered that much is going to have very big missteps.
Overcovered, you mean like he's too exposed?
Yeah, it's just like, you know what I mean? If you have that many words written about you a day.
Well, that, but I feel like he's overexposed or overcovered. But I feel like he doesn't understand the impact of his words.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He's just off the hip. But
Yeah.
I
So,
think it's
but like, do you
interesting.
think he should be held accountable, like for shooting from the hip when, like, I don't know, he doesn't strike me as a hateful person.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know about should or shouldn't just because I don't have enough like even knowledge of everything. But I don't know. I don't let that. The only couple people I would say have steered me away from, I'd say like I don't think I could because I never listened to Bill Cosby's stand up before. I don't know that I could listen to his stand up and separate that. But that's really
He's on tour again.
that's kind of an exception, not the rule.
Did you hear that? He's on tour?
Yeah, I mean, he never stopped.
How
That's why I
crazy
didn't
is
even
that?
bat an eye
Even
at
in
it.
prison, he's going
Well,
cell
I'm
to
just
cell.
saying, like, it seems like as a guy who's been accused of that, you think he would just, you know what, I'm just gonna retire. Like, you know,
You think so, right?
but
It's like,
again,
no, what did he do? Like drugged women, right?
yeah, insane. Like, I mean,
Insane, crazy
it's
shit. And he's like, I'm just gonna ignore that and go back on tour.
yeah.
Well,
So
okay.
but he's probably the exception where like I don't really care. Like, I'm a pretty
I don't care
stout,
that he's out there. I mean, he's old and blind. What does it matter?
I'm a pretty stout defender of like if you like it, listen to it. Like I
Yeah,
listen to
me
black
too.
metal from like fucking Norway that the guys are like white supremacists or whatever like that. But it's like, yeah, they're just dumb guys that grew up on a farm and play guitar, and
Yeah.
I like their songs.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't necessarily die on the like. So for example, my girlfriend, if I'm listening to Rogan not with headphones on, she'd be like, "Can you just?" I just don't like hearing his voice. And old
What?
me,
Really?
yeah, old me would have been like, "You don't get it."
You don't
Like,
get it.
you don't know how many men's lives he's improved, all this shit. And then it's like, you know, you get older, you're like, I heard someone say this, that guy Sam Hyde, that I like, he said, if you want like a red pilled, like, you know, then you want to date a guy. It's like your girlfriend doesn't, you don't need to like,
That's a good point.
you don't need to
That's a
butt
really good
heads.
point.
Yeah, you don't need to butt heads.
It's almost better if she doesn't like Rogan.
Yeah, it's like, and dude, she makes me such a better person for that perspective.
What do you think he's got a little bit of cult vibes as a cult leader?
No, I just think my girlfriend's probably main concern, if you asked her about it, was just the COVID stuff that he went through, where it was just like, you know, he just says a lot of shit.
I think there's a cult of Rogan.
I guess so, yeah. I mean,
I want to be a priest in it.
I'm certainly part of the cult of Rogan.
Yeah, me
I've
too.
taken Alpha Brain more than 4 times, which
That
puts you-
counts.
yeah,
That counts.
I
If
bought
you've
a
ever gone
bottle.
in a float tank, you're in the cult of Rogan.
Yeah, I bought a bottle of Alpha Brain, and I probably would take it still if it didn't. The only
If it
thing
worked.
changed for me was just gave me sleep paralysis. So if you're looking for a cheap way to give yourself sleep paralysis,
What is alpha brain? It's a nootropic.
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
like
Adderall
theanine.
exists. Like if you want to
Theanine.
stimulate yourself.
I think I should start fucking with theanine though, because when I was taking it,
Oh, I have heard Huberman talk about that. So it's got theanine.
yeah, it has a bunch of shit. I think the theanine is what I was feeling, and it gave me like sleep paralysis because I would like take it too close to bed or something.
What is sleep paralysis?
It's like when you wake up and your eyes are awake, sort of, and but you're not. Your body can't move. I don't know if you never experienced it. It just sucks if you never even heard of it, because now I've exposed you to this thing that exists that you didn't know.
You're gonna placebo me or
Yeah.
nocebo me into it.
Yeah, there's a pretty. You can
No, I've
search
had
for it.
some weird sleep shit. Let me tell you about it.
Yeah.
Sleepwalking.
Really?
Oh yeah, tons of it.
Oh wow, Mike Birbiglia has a whole album about when he found one man show about when he found out. It's called Sleepwalk with Me, and he has this terrible sleepwalking disorder, and it ruined his life for years. Like
He ended up at McDonald's just binge eating.
he like fell out a hotel window and like hurt himself
Holy
really
shit. Oh,
bad.
okay, that's
yeah.
legit.
So it's a really good. You first off, you should check it out. And second off, sleepwalking. That's interesting, dude. I'm so glad I don't know. That.
When I was like a kid, I was at this, kids go to camps or whatever. And it was like a church thing, like a religious camp. And I was staying with like 4 other guys in this room. And I have no memory of this still to this day, except I remember waking up in the closet. But one of the guys told me that I went into the closet and just said, "John, there's a hanger in here." Like, what the fuck does that mean? But I've done a ton of sleepwalking. Like,
That's
I
really
remember
scary.
it's really scary, scary shit. I'm just going to share all my stories now. When I was first married, one of the first nights of like us living together in this little apartment, my ex-wife came into the room and I basically woke up, got out of bed, and like chased her out of the house like a fucking psycho. And I didn't wake up until I was way out of the room.
Whoa.
And so I think I have some weird sleep stuff.
Yeah, dude. I can't even imagine me, dude.
Like,
My
what does any of
girlfriend.
that mean? If anyone knows in the comments, leave a comment.
I only get sleep paralysis when I'm like really overtired.
Is
But
it? But paralysis is like you're laying still. You're not.
yeah, and then I have to like understand that, it would freak me out when it would first happen. Now I like understand what's going on, so I have to like try to just like shake my body awake or whatever. I
Oh,
like move my toe.
okay. I think I
Oh,
have experienced something like that.
yeah, it's very freaky, and sometimes people can kind of still be dreaming a little bit, so you can almost
Yeah.
like hallucinate stuff in your room, or just have a feeling of like
So what does it feel
dread.
like?
I just have like a feeling of dread when it happens, but I've learned to like recognize when it happens and not freak out. And yeah, I'm just like, it feels like my whole body is like a bag of sand or whatever. Like it just like can't move for a little bit. And then usually I can like, I read a thing online where you just start moving your face or your toe, and then like eventually you can get yourself to kind of like jar awake. But I've always just been like the deepest sleeper ever. Like me and my girlfriend actually struggle with it. I'm like never had a problem sleeping in my life, and she's like borderline insomniac.
Mm.
So I think that's probably part of the problem, is that like whatever my sleep chemicals are just intense. Like I'll wake up and just not be able to move because they're just like my whole body's still
Seems like
shut
a
down.
big advantage, actually.
Yeah, it's really good. I
Like
mean,
sleep is important, right?
never struggled with going to bed really. Like there'll be a few nights where, the few nights in my whole history of being alive, but most of the time like fall asleep in the back of a car. Shit, I feel so. I've met so many people that have the opposite problem, that I love the fact that I can just
I
curl
could
up.
fall asleep. But
Yeah.
sometimes I will wake up, and if I'm bothered by something, that's it. Like
Really?
I'm up. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of people like that too. I feel like, I mean, my girlfriend's almost like thinks I'm like a sociopath, but she doesn't understand that it's not like that. Not affected by whatever happened. Like if something bad happened to me or something, it's just that sleep is like the ultimate. All right, well, I'm gonna deal with it tomorrow, I guess.
It's pretty crazy that like you turn off for 8 hours
Yeah.
and then turn back on. It's like a
Yeah.
life and a death. Every day is like, like a little lifetime.
And when you live with someone, which I never did before last year of my life, it really opens you up to like,
How much hair they leave on the floor?
yeah, and they're just off. Yeah, they're just asleep. Yeah, it's crazy. Because when you live like in your own little bedroom or your own little apartment, it's like it's your private space. And so when
Yeah.
you go to bed, you wake up, it's the same as when you left it.
It's nice to live with someone.
Oh, it's so nice. I mean,
Yeah.
I think if my girlfriend ever broke up with me, I would dedicate myself to the comedy arts, strictly, and become like a monk, a friar. But for now, as long as she puts up with me, it's like the best. I'm in like a total best relationship of my life. So that's the thing about Austin, is like it's hard to even feel like I'm not making it in comedy the way I want to when other stuff in my life is going well. Which if I had said that 2 years ago, I would have been like, I probably would have thought that was lame.
What's the dream? What's the comedy dream? What do we want?
Selling.
You want to be a
Well,
fucking rock star on the stage.
short term
But it's hard to be that guy.
featuring, short term, like featuring and hosting for clubs would be like my next 3 or 4 year plan. I think I am more capable of it. I think if a place gives me a chance, everyone probably feels like this. I feel like I've been overlooked in terms of like, I sign up for mics.
Me too. I'm undiscovered.
Yeah. But I sign up for mics I don't even get on. Like my name never seems to get through the Velveeta mic room or the Cap City. I'm sure Rogan's mic won't have me just because my name's not recognizable by everybody or whatever. But again, instead of being upset and mad about it, just accepting like, this is what it is. And so just keep on working and hopefully
Well, let's get your name out there. Paul Cyphers.
break through that barrier, because I think I could host, I think I could feature. And then I think that's like the stepping stone to being a headliner and selling tickets, which is like kind of all I want to do. I just want to tour. I want to be a road comic.
Yeah.
I want to sell.
I want to try it and see what it feels like.
Yeah.
Especially, I think there's a big advantage to like people not knowing who you are. And I don't know.
Yeah.
There's something cool about that. What would suck is if you never got to experience that. Like if like you were already like famous for something and then people, you want to be able
like
to.
every time you go up there, it's sort of like the Brendan Schaub effect or whatever. That's scary.
Yeah.
Or Steve-O. Yeah, I'm so entranced by Brendan Schaub. I think.
Yeah, what do you think of him?
I think it's really,
He gets shit on so much.
Yeah, and he lives like
I think it affects him.
it's like a Black Mirror episode he's living. Like, and I've seen other comedians go through that where.
So let's go through the Brendan Schaub story.
Yeah.
So he's an MMA fighter.
And I'm a big UFC fan.
And a big
diehard UFC
friend of Rogan.
Yeah.
And I was watching all those early episodes. And he's fighting and he loses a couple fights or whatever.
Yeah, he starts showing up on the podcast sometimes, and then Rogan kind of talked to him off the ledge of continuing, which is like in fighting is a tough thing to do because once you're not in the top 5 or 10 fighters in the UFC, you're kind of accepting that you're going to be beaten a couple of times and maybe badly. So it is a scary thing. So Rogan convinced him to kind of get out of that and start doing podcasting full time, and he started getting to stand up more.
I think he's got a great podcast.
And he
Like
was
people
writing,
shit on him.
yeah,
I haven't seen. I don't. You know,
he was
like
writing.
whatever whatever they say about his comedy. But I've seen his podcast, and as far as I can tell, it's as entertaining as anyone.
Yeah, and he, you know, I'm sure there's valid criticisms that people have.
I think they don't like how easy of a road he had it because he was friends with Rogan and the
Which is
Rogan
so
effect.
weird.
Like there is a cult of Rogan. I'm calling it out right now. I can't help it. I can't help myself. I have to say it.
I just think if you care about how easy someone else's road was or something, I mean, I don't want to be like this right wing guy or whatever, but like you just fucking
You don't see their road.
you're like a have nothing, will have nothing.
Yeah,
person. Like I don't know.
totally.
I've heard
But like, who says his road was easy?
yeah, and just I don't know, in general, it's just like he's not taking again, I try to think, is he taking any money out of my pocket? If he was,
Yeah.
if I had a weekend scheduled at a club and Brendan Schaub was there all of a sudden, then yeah, maybe I would feel away.
But people feel envious when they see
Yeah.
somebody getting a reward or something that they want.
And it's fun to be mean. It's fun
And
to
it's
shit
fun
on
to be
people.
mean.
I
It's
mean,
fun to shit
I
on
was
people.
18
We
once
can all
when
shit
Amy
on people.
Schumer was the biggest thing, and if you dug up my internet comments, I don't think they would be that dissimilar to Brendan Schaub.
Yeah.
And if I met Amy Schumer right now, I would probably pretend like I've always been her biggest fan because
Totally.
it's just like that's I
How
was
it
a
goes.
lame.
That's how humans are.
I
That's
was
how
a
people
loser
are.
back then, and you know what I mean. But it is fun to look at that. Also, it's like a case study on again like how bad like the internet can be mean, and so it's almost reading that is sometimes cathartic, where it's like okay, there's like a hornet's nest on the internet, and if you're really like some of the people in Austin are so obsessed with getting like to whatever fame they're going to get immediately that I think it's scary to me because I'm like I like the slow rise because I'm learning things about myself. I'm learning how to
Acclimate.
I'll make a mistake with like a successful comedian in a conversation where I
Yeah.
feel like I could have steered it in a better way.
Yeah.
And then I learn from that. But they
Right.
don't know my name. They don't know me from a hole in the wall. So it's like, you know, I met Red Band at like when I first moved here, and we had a short conversation at the creek, and I felt like I was kind of drunk and shit, and I felt like a dork. And now looking back like 2 years later, it's like he would not even remember it happened. And so, but it's like, but if I was famous like Steve-O,
Right.
he would remember. So it is sometimes it scares me. It's like it's like just take the road that, because there's pros and cons to everything. Sure, his door was opened faster than other people in terms of getting money, but now he's had to deal with the ramifications of like, you know, being exposed a little too early or being a little amateurish, I guess you could say, as a comedian, which is funny because it's fun to shit on comedians. That's like part of the camaraderie of being a comic.
Mm-hmm.
But truly, in my heart of hearts, it's like you put me on stage for 25 minutes. There's going to be nights where it doesn't go that dissimilar to Brendan Schaub. Like to think that I'm anything better than him, or even even better than him at all. It's funny when some comics shit on him because I'm like, we're not that. We're all in the same kind of.
Yeah.
We're all pretty shitty at it. You know, you're shitty at it for a while. But if you're not a comic and your recreation is just shitting on comics, then I've sort of learned to accept that that's part of
That is just part
comedy.
of it.
And
Yeah.
everyone wants to say my guy is good and your guy sucks.
But I think that you're right. You want to have, in the ideal world, it would be a slow acclimation to the attention, because you kind of want to say, like, I haven't had a ton of like exposure or whatever, but I've had some clips that had some views and some nasty comments, and you do want to kind of reply to those and be like, fuck you.
And you
don't know
will
shit.
sometimes, and then you feel so
totally.
stupid about it. Like,
Yeah, and then you're like, I mean, it's like if somebody like, you know, says something about you, and then you're like, try to defend it, it makes you look worse.
yeah, and then you learn those lessons when you only have, you know, this big of a footprint, rather than like when it's going to be this mistake.
But then you probably make those mistakes anyway, because like the thing that I keep thinking about is you take somebody, let's stay on the topic of Coulter Rogan, and because he has a massive platform and a massive attention on him. And I think a lot of people would look at that and they'd say, oh, that's what I want. I want to be on a show, and I want to be able to get other people, anyone I want on my show, and blah, blah, blah. So like, do you know how much fucking pressure that would be?
Yeah.
Like that might buckle you. And I think people look at like the all of the pros, and they can't even consider the cons. And then when you get a real pro, somebody who's been used to that pressure and who's built up the muscle for decades, they make it look easy.
Yeah.
And so it's confusing. and you're like, oh, I could do that. I could have a big platform. It's like, well, maybe you'd be fucked.
Yeah, and also you only really learn how to be a person that can deal with it. The reason Rogan is so good at like pushing aside the immense amount of noise. I mean, he keeps his family life pretty private. I think that's all been developed because he had a slow rise to what he is now. Like, and I think with comedians, if you just all of a sudden get a big bump, you probably start to think like, do
I'm
I
hot
deserve
shit.
this or that or that? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, yeah, I guess it could go either
probably
way.
both, depending on
Yeah.
what drug you're on.
Yeah, totally.
And so I think the slow rise.
Weed is introspective. Adderall is hot shit.
Yeah, and that's what I feel like here is like if I ever get anything, then at least I'll be able to say like, you know, not even in a shitty like, wow, no one ever gave me anything. I'll just be like, I mean, I clawed my way to whatever I had. And so I can sit at whatever height I'm at and look down and be like, well, I did this. Like,
But I like the idea that you would make all the mistakes at level 0, 1,
yeah.
2, 3,
And you
4.
have to in comedy because you will say so
Yeah.
many stupid things on
Yeah.
stage. You'll
In front of other
you'll
comics.
make a Facebook joke when you're drunk that will get you semi-canceled from your scene. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and that's shit that has to happen. I mean, look at Shane Gillis. Like, if you start
Wasn't
listening,
it so mild? What did he say?
well, it's just like if you listen to his podcast from way back then, just the way he talks is so much different than now. Like he's developed as a man and a person over time because he's gone through the ups and downs of, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. If I was just looking for money or whatever, like I always think it's funny when comics talk about money because it's like literally just go
This
be
is
a
like-
waiter or a bartender.
Yeah,
Like
anything will make you more money than comedy.
dude, bartending in Austin, if you can get the gig, bar backing in Austin is going to make you 40 times as much. So with comedy, it's like I'm looking to feel like shit. That's sort of there's some type of pay pig fetishist. Like I want to be in a gimp suit and have the audience spit on me occasionally because it's like, you know what I mean? It's
Now, do you think that you can be a comedian in anything else, or do you think it taints you so that people don't take you seriously in other aspects of life?
well, yeah, you can definitely be something else. Like if you're a successful comedian, I mean, I know Jordan Peele's not like a stand-up, but he's definitely transitioned into being like one of the most serious screenwriters, like, you know, of today. I think it depends. It's hard for me to say because I really would just be happy being like not Dave Attell in terms of like his legend status, but just in terms of being a guy that just writes an hour of jokes, goes on the road, makes a bunch of drunk people happy, smokes weed with a few of his fans. Doug Benson. That's like my ultimate goal. Like I want to have stuff and I want to have stuff going for me, but if I could afford
You
a
just want to
condo,
hang.
if I could be Doug
go on the
Benson, dude,
road
have
and-
one podcast about movies and then do stand up all the time and be really fucking good at stand up. I mean, that's like the
Do you even want to do stand up though? I don't know. Like stand up's so hard. You have to like write shit and prep and like
Yeah.
go and like rehearse it and like get it all in your brain. Like podcasting is where it's at.
for sure. But that's all ancillary. I think for me, I just know that stand up for whatever reason, whether it's I want to do it or
It's just such a good vibe.
calling to me. Yeah, it's just like I think this is the only way I break through to this world. Being from Boston, starting stand up when I was 25, 26, you know, it's just like I don't think I'm going to relearn a new art form now. You know, I'm sort of like entrenched in this, and I've just seen a one or two like lights off in the distance where I've been like, oh, I'm closer to land than I ever have been
I
with
see what you're saying,
any
yeah.
like undertaking in my life, really.
Yeah.
You know, so like I don't think I don't have much like the success that I have is just like I used to not be able to do this at all and now I can do it. And I've tried to do a lot of things. You know, I've tried to learn piano. I've tried to do shit and never gotten to that point with it. So for stand up for me, it's like is the vehicle. I just know that like it works for my personality and it works for what I do.
It's a pretty cool vehicle.
Yeah, for sure. If you can make it work. But I am total agreement that the psychic pain is like not. I mean, all art I would just recommend you don't. It's not,
Yeah.
you know, that's like an old saying. The professor walks into a college like arts, you know, program and says, the first thing I want to tell you guys, you all should just get up and leave. Like, this is stupid to even do this. Now, if you still want to stay, I can try to teach you how to navigate this. But, you know, ultimately putting some money into Ethereum and then working as a barback, you know what I mean? They'll
Yeah.
probably lend you to a much better,
Yeah, I mean, you definitely shouldn't do it for money. But then you're still doing it for money and fame and all these other motivations because why else are you trying to be an entertainer?
Yeah.
I guess there's a part of it where you want to be able to express yourself, and it's cool that comics have a level of immunity.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair because we do need people that can just say wrong shit only, and that should be like a role in society. We've always had that role.
And when it's working, it feels like a little bit of a superpower, I would say. Like, you know.
Well, but you pay for it in the fact that nothing you say is serious.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like you're a philosopher. Well, okay, whatever.
You can kind of be what you want. Like I've had stand up when I go see a really good headliner, sometimes they move me in a way that's like very emotional. Like,
That's true.
it's fun to make fun of Nanette, but if you look at Hannah Gadsby's comments, everyone resonates with her. Say, I just saw you last night. It changed my life. I had such a good time. And like, so it's like, who am I to tell that person that like, it's not actually funny, you know? So some people do that. Some people just make you laugh so hard that you forget about everything entirely. And I think that is a cool thing to like impart. You know what I mean? Like,
If I had my dream, okay, I want to put this into the universe. Here's what I want. Caleb, 6:30 every Wednesday or every weekday, every fucking day. You're here. You got 3 minutes.
cool.
And just whatever you want to say. No prep, no nothing, but you're going to be there on stage and try not to look like too big of an idiot.
Yeah.
I think I could do that.
Yeah. You should, dude, IG lives. I watch a lot of my favorite musicians and sometimes comedians. They'll just do an IG live in the morning when they're like smoking a joint or
Yeah, that's pretty cool too.
A little bit of an audience talking to you. It's fun. It's and yeah, ultimately everyone in Austin, whether it's like what you're doing with podcasting, what I'm doing stand up, it's the ultimate goal is to not have a real job. Like that's
kind of true. But I don't know. Like I've had some cool jobs. It's kind of fun to have like
but even if you had like a real job and a team, when you want it to be under Caleb Enterprises,
you want it to be on your terms.
100% of my work is getting paid back to me 100% in full. It's not, you know, I think the problem with working for other people is like, if you make it your baby, you always have to remember they can take that baby away from you whenever they want. So
you want to do your own thing in that way.
That's like,
and they can take your baby away.
Yeah. Even if it's just because they have somebody else. You didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. It's like, we just have somebody else who's fresh out of school that does it for cheaper. Yeah.
The ultimate is to have total autonomy and control over how you spend your time and creative expression.
And then the reward when you finally get there is everyone on the internet saying you don't know how good you have it and you don't fucking know what a real job is like. So that's where I'm trying to get.
That's why you pay the price.
Those kind of haters online. So this guy, I want to complain about doing stand-up and then people will complain that I'm complaining and the cycle repeats itself.
There's nothing to complain about though. Like with stand-up, like sure you have to complain because it's fun to whine and be like whining. Yeah, like you're choosing to do it. And it is, what are you choosing to do? Go get your voice amplified and get your idea. This is a thing I love that Bill Hicks said. This is something that always stuck with me, was like, you get to go on a stage and people are going to listen to you. And not only are they going to listen, sometimes they'll laugh. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. And I think one of the things that like I've been trying to come to terms with, like, what am I? Am I a comic? Am I a podcaster? Am I a tech guy? Am I blah, blah, blah? Whatever. I don't even think anyone needs to define themselves in like such certain terms. But I do want to get clear about what I'm trying to do. And with the stand-up thing, I've come to terms that I don't care about being the funniest guy in the room. I care about saying my shit.
Yeah.
That's what I care about.
Yeah, and it's cyclical. It'll change. Like maybe someday you
probably true, right?
Yourself. Like I think that's a big thing comedians get stuck in here. Is I do it. I'm guilty of it. I do it this way. I write my jokes word for word. And this year I want to try to get outside of that and like work on what if I did it this way for a little bit. You know what I mean? And accept that, like, I don't know if people, how many mics do you go to a week? It's like sometimes I go to more than others. It's all there's no like one size fits all. So like you might want to just get on stage right now, but then one day you might be struck with like, I just want to write like the best clean jokes ever. You know, people that get weird as you do it, you kind of discover.
If you stay in it.
Yeah.
And that's the other cool thing about like making it a lifetime pursuit is like it kind of takes the pressure off of like this year where like no chance you're going to be in an arena. Like that's never going to happen, right? Like you just don't even have to think about that. You don't even have to think about that. Yeah. All you have to think about is what is the expression, like what's on your mind? What are you trying to get out there? And I think that's like a better approach, because otherwise you're like chasing some outcome and you're like frustrated that you're not like getting picked for the this and
that.
Then
you realize that every time you do get picked, because I was once an open micer that never got booked, and I went to getting booked twice a year, and then
on Kill Tony 3 times,
twice a month, and then eventually you realize, the human condition is everyone who's a comedy club headliner wishes they were a theater headliner, everyone who's a theater headliner wishes they were an arena headliner, and that goes all the way down to open mics, where it's like everyone who's a level 1 open micer wishes they were a level 2 open micer.
Totally.
And so once it is a balance though, because you want to work hard as if you know, you are Mike Tyson and you want to outwork everybody, but at the same time, you don't want to behold yourself to like,
Some specific outcome.
yeah, exactly. So it is always a weird balance of like, which, yeah, ultimately it's why I just try to laugh at the bad parts of it.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
But it's kind of a church, like it's kind of a community. I mean, it definitely is. And the longer that you're in it, the more people you're going to meet, the more you're going to resonate with them. You're going to be like, oh, I really like that guy. Let's hang out. Let's do stuff.
And I can go to any major city. I mean, I'm going to Denver with my girlfriend this week, and I don't know anybody from Denver. I reached out to a few people, didn't really get much back. So I'm just going to go to a few open mics, and I guarantee I'll meet someone that, who knows, I could be friends with the rest of my life. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Which is a big thing. I mean, I met Jesse and Ben outside of an open mic 5 years ago. And I would say that there's a good chance that both those guys are going to be like, you know, both of my best men at my wedding or whatever. You know what I mean? Like if not my best man, then standing right next to my best man. So, which is pretty crazy. You know what I mean? Try to, like I said, be a little less cynical. It's fun to be Tim Dillon. It's fun to be like, everything fucking sucks.
But even he has to appreciate, I mean, everyone has to appreciate the fact that like you're going to bump into the same people. As long as you stay in the game, you're going to keep bumping into the same people.
Rails, and I tell myself that outlasting is a big part of
outlasting.
Yeah.
Boom.
You're just here when the moment comes and you're kind of prepared. I mean, that's what Hans was. He was there when the moment came and he was prepared for it. So say what you will about like, you know, there was the circumstances surrounding him getting on Kill Tony were kind of like a joke, like a response to like something that happened with him. But Hans took that opportunity and ran with it pretty much as good as anybody could have ever. You know, if you ran that simulation 10,000 times with 10,000 comedians, most of them end up back where they kind of started. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to like get plucked out of obscurity and like.
But am I ready for it? Like I've stopped.
And are you ready for it? Right.
I'm on my fourth time. If I'm on my fourth time, I gotta make or break it now. Like
because then if you're not ready for it, then it burns. Like and whatever the opportunity is gone.
And it's on there forever. The internet, which you can redeem yourself from, but it still hurts.
I mean, I think you just got to accept the cringe. Yeah, you know.
No, that's like, what Gen Z is great at. Gen Z has fully made it apparent to everyone that your life is cringe. Like they don't even post pictures of themselves. Yeah, they don't even post pictures of themselves on Instagram most of the time now. You're like young, they'll have one blurry photograph of themselves.
Dude, what is up with that? Have you seen Gen Z scribbling their faces? Have you seen that trend?
No, but I'm sure it's part of that. If you're not a creator as a Gen Z person, you don't want to have a like millennials thought like let's have an Instagram even if I'm not doing anything.
Yeah,
cool. I just want to have a bunch of pictures of me and my dog on there.
A journal almost.
Gen Z keeps that shit private. They text each other those photos. They like, you know, they're more like they think it's cringe to have. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, but like I think there's something wrong about scribbling out your face and like keeping all that private. Like I'm not saying that millennials like just like throwing everything out there all the time is any better.
There's got to be a middle ground.
There's got to be a middle ground. Yeah.
It's weird. It's the reckoning of technology. It's weird. I might just get.
Where do you think it's going?
I don't know. I just might become a drone pilot. It seems like that's like an easy 6-figure job. I'm good at video games.
6 figures? Like what is that?
If you're a good drone filmer, like you have a really nice quality drone, you have a nice quality camera, you can just fly it over movie sets and get them a nice wide shot. There's value to be made there.
A drone pilot.
Yeah, dude, that's what I would recommend. If you get anything from this, I came here trying to give whatever marginal wisdom I have. It's quit your art form and become a drone pilot. Right. Whether that's the military, you know, bombing Syrian weddings or shooting American weddings with a camera, you know what I mean? Something with a drone.
Or also bombs. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
Just whatever you're into. No judgment. Yeah. In this world.
No country, whatever country you feel needs
to be bombed the most. Yeah. Don't pick on Ukraine. They got enough bombs.
Yeah, they're good for...
How about Xi Jinping? Let's take him out.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm fucked.
Yeah.
Where do you think technology is going? Like, what do you think? There's two things I always have to ask everybody. One is AI and two is what the fuck is reality?
I'm bearish on VR. I think it's
VR
lame.
is like so
I think
lame.
No one wants. I mean, Brian Redman thinks it's the coolest fucking thing in the world, and maybe he'll be right. I think having a helmet on for more than 4 minutes is
makes me sick.
Yeah, but I'm also old, so I have to accept.
But he's old.
Yeah, but he's young at heart, you know.
And he's probably you get used to it. I used to have a buddy that was really into VR. We would like do all the games and stuff, and you do get used to it, but VR, the only way it works is if you truly can't tell. Like this is VR. And then like the aliens peel back our eyes and we are in a whole different world. Well, fuck.
Yeah.
Like how crazy would that be if you woke up at the end of this podcast in another universe?
Yeah. No, I mean.
And you were like, I had this whole life. I had this girlfriend. We moved.
That's my dream where it's Jesse like, I don't need to do any of the work. I can just make my like Matrix style. I can just download Kung Fu.
Well, we could get there. I think in the fullness of time, we even may get there because our brains are finite machines.
Yeah.
They're limited. And technology is ostensibly infinite. Now, there's no way to really prove what I'm saying, but um, I think that if you give humans infinite time, let's just say 10,000 years, right? They're going to keep making new tech that reads
Yeah.
the brain. Eventually, they'll be able to insert completely realistic ideas and fantasies and realities
Yeah.
into your mind. And as soon as that happens, the question becomes, what makes you think you're in the prime reality?
Yeah. And I guess I've heard this theory. If it can happen once, then it's more than likely already happened. And we're just
Yeah.
living a new version. Yeah.
I always thought that was bullshit until recently.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of wondering.
Yeah. I love I have no, I always say I have 90 IQ. So big questions to me.
90, there's no chance.
People struggle with big questions. I just say, I don't know, man.
Could be anything.
Seems wild. Seems like there's something out there, right? And I just keep it moving. Can I have a cigarette? Like that's how my
That's a good attitude.
dude. And I mean, it's like the sleep thing. I've learned to be grateful for that because I've seen friends, and maybe someday I'll go through it. You know what I mean? That just really struggle with great questions, and I think those people need to exist, and people need to be searching for those answers. But dude, I go down to my Korean bakery in the morning. I get a garlic breadstick.
That's the right answer.
Yeah, I get a garlic breadstick. Sometimes I get a hot dog inside of like a croissant. I don't know if that's a Korean food. They tell me it is. It feels very American to me. And then I drink a coffee and I play Civilization.
Definitely the right answer.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it. Like whatever it is great.
Yeah, my girlfriend hates it. My girlfriend's always future.
Is she a thinker?
Yeah, I mean, women are better than us in many, many ways. Guys just are really good at specific things. Yeah. They're really good at violence. They're really good at physical labor.
Mm-hmm.
And they're really good at
You think it was a mistake to give them the vote?
Oh, women? Yeah. I think anyone the vote. I think we should let our overlords decide.
That's true. We should restrict it. No more voting rights.
Yeah.
Like we let too many people decide.
My girlfriend hates
We
it.
should have an IQ test, a fitness test, money test.
Yeah.
How many ways can we make it fucked up?
We should just let chat GPT.
Oh, that's a good idea. Dude. We'll let the AIs run the game, run the simulator.
Jesse's obsessed with that thing.
Is he?
Yeah, I hate it.
Why do you hate it? I'm obsessed with it.
I'm kind of a luddite, I think. I'm going kind of Kaczynski. I just bought a typewriter.
Dude, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool, but I didn't do it to be cool. I did it because I feel demonic. Like the closest I've ever felt to like a satanic thing is when I stare at my phone sometimes. When I'm saying this thing it
sucks you in.
It like knows I'm here. Like the one ring, when Frodo walks in the room, he can feel the presence of it. You can feel your presence of your phone. You can know when it's not on you, even though you didn't realize. So I'm really trying to reject it. Of course, first thing I did was take a picture of my typewriter and put it on Instagram. So it's not. I'm struggling.
Does it work? Like, is it?
It did work for a little, then it broke, and I got pissed off. So I gotta go home and try to figure it out.
Yeah, ChatGPT is something else. I think AI is pretty interesting.
Yeah, it'll probably open a portal to hell, but I mean, it has to happen eventually, right?
Ooh, I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, you don't think it could be a utopia? Like, what if ChatGPT evolves and is just like a super sentient robot that solves all of humans' problems?
I hope it is, but
it's like, oh, you have global warming, just take CO2 out of the air. Duh.
Every other technological advancement thus far in human history has
come with a cost.
Led to more suffering on the whole. So,
well, no, because like AC and clean water and iPhones are all.
That's great for us. iPhones are great for us. It was led to more suffering somewhere, some nameless place.
But we don't have to think about.
Yeah,
them.
no. I mean, I feel you, dude.
Out of sight, out of mind.
I want to be a famous comedian. I'm part of the elite. You know what I mean?
As long as I'm in America, it's fine.
You know what I mean? If I got to rub shoulders with a couple of pedophiles, I'll pretend like I didn't see it. You know what I mean?
If we got to go to Epstein Island,
I'm not going to partake, but I'm not going to.
I'm not going to judge. Look,
if you got a private
Michael
jet,
Jackson, he had his interests.
Yeah, I'll take a ride on it. It'd be nice to know what a private jet's like. Maybe a steak dinner. Yeah, I mean, hopefully it leads to something good. You know what I mean?
I think it's going to be pretty good.
Hopefully it doesn't make people obsolete, and then
I think it will do that.
Squalor, yeah.
Well, I think the most likely future that I see is that everyone's fucked because they're too comfortable.
Yeah.
And like you need to wake up and have a purpose, right? We all need something to do, but increasingly, this isn't as much of a problem if you're in the arts. I don't know. We'll see how good it is. One of the things that's really interesting about these new AIs that are coming online is you would think that technology would be really good at automating like the blue collar jobs, but that's not what's happening.
Yeah,
It's
certain
automating the
trades.
white
Yeah.
collar
Yeah,
jobs.
exactly. Yeah. It's like how do you automate a lot of the construction trades and shit like that.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just too
like
expensive.
actually turns out to be more complicated than coding.
And there'll always be a level of artists in that probably exceeds. Like you could build a cookie cutter, like Russian looking apartment from the Soviet era, maybe with AI. But I think there's always going to be room for. I want like crown moldings, and I want
Yeah.
that's my true goal is to become more of a blue collar guy because I think it's like that life of I built this, I did this. I'm kind of that's I bought the typewriter kind of. I'm glad it broke because I want to learn how to fix them. And I'm trying to find something else blue collary, whether it's like woodworking or
Do you like working with your hands?
not. I mean, not particularly, but I think it's like almost a thing that I lack. Like you know, what I mean, I used to do pest control for like 8 or 9 years, and just getting in the truck every day and having to just do stuff every day.
Yeah.
I kind of miss that, like feeling like you know, you look at someone who went to college and you say, "Oh, you wasted your time going to college." I want that feeling back. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. You spent 250 grand
Yeah, even though the
on a
truth is,
Harvard degree.
I didn't go to college because I just, you know, I couldn't cut it. That's the thing comedians do. They're like, I chose comedy. It's like, no, comedy chose you. We didn't have a lot of options.
Yeah, that's probably true,
Yeah.
actually.
That whenever I meet someone who has a lot of options and does stand up, I'm always like, what are you doing?
Yeah, why? Why do it? Why
I
do it?
can't set up. I wouldn't know how to focus the camera, any of that. So I have a notebook and a pencil. That's about
Oh,
level,
YouTube it.
the level.
Everything's on YouTube now.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Well, dude, let's wrap this one up.
Yeah.
So what's your socials? What do you have coming up? How do we get you booked on shows?
At real Paul Cyphers is everything for social. At real Paul Cyphers at Gmail. I just made a website. It's not live yet, but I probably gotta do a newsletter.
Do you use ChatGPT?
No, but if you send me your email, and with your address, I will write you a letter on my typewriter. That's what I'm doing now. I write people letters on my typewriter.
It's a cool gig.
And then I'm at in Austin everywhere. I'm do like 5 or 6 shows a month at least. So look at my Instagram.
Real Paul Cyphers on
yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you
dude.
so much for having me, dude.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks.
All right, see you guys.